The cold echoed in the command chamber of the Helios, but Commander Jace Rourke felt nothing, not the sterile chill of the air recyclers or the faint hum beneath his boots. He stood in the observation deck, arms crossed, watching stars stream past like distant ghosts. His face, scarred and weathered, carried the weight of 1,000 choices, most of them ugly, all of them necessary. Behind him, holograms flickered. A projection looped silently. Footage from a mining colony in the Darlith Expanse. The feed showed the aftermath of something impossible. Charred wreckage, crumpled exosuits, blood. Thick, dark stains spattered across walls that still smoked. The corpses weren't just dead, they were dismantled, torn apart with precision. "Still watching it?" asked Lieutenant Commander Sarah Vallon, stepping in without waiting for acknowledgement. Her voice carried that sharp edge of someone used to surviving beside monsters, human or not. She glanced at the paused image of a mangled hauler split in two, like it had been shredded by claws larger than a man's torso. "It doesn't make sense," Rourke muttered. "No explosives, no scorch patterns, no residue. Just brute force, but smarter." Vallon sighed and stepped beside him, arms folded. "You've seen worse." "No," he said. "I haven't." The door hissed open again, and Admiral Cale's voice barked from the corridor. "Briefing in 10. Whatever killed those miners. We need to know if it's still out there." Cale was old school, clean lines and cold orders. He didn't ask for opinions. Rourke followed without a word. Whatever waited in that briefing room, it wouldn't change what he already felt deep in his gut. This wasn't just another extermination mission. Something new had entered their theater of war. The lights dimmed as the tactical hologram lit the room. A rotating 3D map of the Darlith sector shimmered in blue. Commander Rourke took a seat at the edge of the room, while Cale began. 3 days ago, contact with Mining Outpost Alpha. DX-9 was lost. We sent a recon drone. Here's what it saw. He gestured, and the feed played again, this time with audio. Static crackled, followed by distant screams. The footage lurched, showing a shadow darting across the colony wall. 12 feet tall, hunched, covered in obsidian armor or maybe natural plating. No eyes, no hesitation. It moved like something that didn't need to fear anything. Preliminary scans failed to identify it, Cale said. Not in our databases, not in Allied archives. A new species? Vallon asked. Worse. A hunter. A predator built for war. Rourke leaned forward. And what's the mission? Cale didn't blink. We go in, secure the site, confirm the threat. If possible, eliminate it. Silence hung heavy until Rourke broke it. You don't send veterans to clean up miners. You send us because you expected to fight back. Cale's expression didn't change. We send you because if it does, you're the only one who's walked away from worse. Outside the window, the stars seemed to freeze for a moment, as the space itself waited for someone to challenge that claim. The sky above Darlith 9 was a permanent shade of steel, thick with electromagnetic haze and the weight of unspoken violence. As the arc light broke through the upper atmosphere, turbulence rattled its reinforced hull, but none of the soldiers aboard flinched. They were the best Earth had to offer, scarred, battle-hardened, and all carrying quiet understanding that not everyone would be making a return trip. Rourke stood behind the pilot, eyes scanning the terrain below. Dense jungle stretched endlessly, pulsing with life. The planet teemed with bioelectric signatures, many of them far too large to be anything harmless. He gripped the back of the co-pilot's chair as the ship dipped lower, navigating between narrow ridgelines and thick canopies that bristled with motion. This planet doesn't want us here, Vallon said from beside him, her voice low, almost reverent. Rourke didn't respond. He was watching a clearing open up below, half-buried structures of the mining colony, mangled beyond recognition. The wreckage looked like bones picked clean. The edges of the buildings were sheared as though something had carved them away molecule by molecule. He had seen orbital bombardment, plasma fire, even the corrosive atmosphere of Varnock Prime. None of that matched what he was seeing now. The arc light hovered and deployed its landing struts. The soldiers filed out quickly, establishing perimeter with crisp, trained motions. They moved like professionals, but their eyes betrayed their tension. Every sound was too loud, every shadow too deep. Rourke stepped onto the soil last. It was soft, damp, rich with decay. A mist coiled along the ground, clinging to boots like fingers reluctant to let go. Valen approached. Helmet clipped to her belt. Motion sensors are up. No major signals within 2 clicks. But I don't like the ambient readings. Electromagnetic spikes every few minutes. Like something's breathing through the land itself. He nodded. Keep everyone close. No patrols without backup. They moved in silence toward the ruins. The colony's central hub was a collapsed shell, walls buckled outward. Something had exploded from within. No signs of blast impact, just force. Brutal, localized force. Inside, equipment was overturned, consoles shattered, chairs still bolted to the floor but twisted as though made of paper. There was no blood, no bodies. It was worse than death. It was erasure. Rourke bent down, examining the gash in the steel wall. 4 parallel grooves, each 2 inches deep. Claw marks. Deliberate. Displayed. A warning. Then the first scream came. From outside, sharp and full of terror. One of the perimeter guards, barely audible through the comms. His name was Fisher. Before anyone could respond, his signal blinked out. "Contact left flank," someone shouted. Chaos erupted. Rourke burst from the building, rifle ready. He scanned the jungle's edge with mist thickened and light played tricks. A silhouette emerged. Something massive, quadrupedal, but hunched in a way that suggested it could shift upright. Its skin shimmered, rippling like oil over armor. No visible eyes, no identifiable mouth. But it saw them. It saw everything. Rounds fired. Dozens of shots peppered the trees. The creature didn't flinch. It darted sideways with impossible speed, vanishing into the underbrush. In its wake, silence, then a low, guttural sound, neither growl nor breath. It was a statement. 3 soldiers were down. Fisher's body was dragged 20 meters before they found it. Neck snapped, spine exposed. The precision of it made Rourke's blood run cold. This wasn't hunger. It was study. Valen stared at the trees. That was no ambush. It knew exactly where we were. "It's testing us," Rourke said. She turned to him, confused. "Testing." He gestured to the wounds, to the pattern of the assault. Minimal kills. No full engagement. It's watching how we respond. Her eyes narrowed, like a tactician. "No," Rourke corrected grimly. "Like a rival." They pulled back to regroup. The jungle seemed closed behind them. Shadows deeper, sounds more muffled. Drones were deployed overhead, but even their feed began to fail within minutes. Interference spiking, static overwhelming the signal. "We're not alone," Valen said later, during a momentary lull. Rourke crouched beside a data terminal they recovered, trying to pull logs. "We never were." The logs revealed little. One corrupted file, recovered partially, showed a message from the colony's chief engineer. Frantic near the end, she whispered about the creature learning. Each night, it came closer. Each day, it left fewer signs. She described how it moved among them like smoke, silent until it chose not to be. The final seconds of the video cut to black with a low whisper. "It watches us sleep." Valen looked at the playback, visibly disturbed. What sleeps on a world like this? Rourke didn't answer. He was already thinking ahead. If the Apex had studied the miners, it would do the same with them. Only this time, it had better prey to observe. That night, Rourke stood watch while others rested. Not because he didn't trust the night guard rotation, but because he knew something the rest hadn't realized yet. The Apex wasn't hunting them for survival. It was hunting them for something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The third night on Darlith 9 was colder than the ones before. Not by temperature, but by presence. The jungle, alive with whispers and rustling leaves only hours ago, had grown deathly still. No wind stirred the thick canopy. No insects hummed in the air. It was as though the world held its breath. The silence was not absence. It was warning. Rourke walked the perimeter, scanning each shadow with the disciplined calm of a man who had learned not to trust peace. His armor was smudged with dirt, shoulders heavy with the weight of command. Around him, the other soldiers had begun to show cracks in their composure. Subtle at first, tighter grips on rifles, eyes flicking at movement that wasn't there. Conversations cut short for no reason. Valen sat near a portable terminal, recalibrating the motion scanners for the third time in as many hours. "Nothing's working," she said without looking up. "These readings don't make sense. There's movement everywhere and nowhere." "It's cloaking," Rourke replied. "Not invisibility, distraction. It's making noise across a broad frequency range to scatter our sensors." She paused, then nodded slowly. "That would mean it understands our tech." "It does. It's not just studying behavior anymore. It's adapting to tactics." He didn't need to say the rest. If it could learn their weapons, their formations, their tools, what was stopping it from learning their weaknesses? A sharp crack echoed from the west perimeter. Not gunfire. Not natural. Something splitting. The team mobilized instantly, fanning out in twos, scanning the treeline with rifles raised. Rourke moved with them, his body taut with anticipation, his mind already working through the possibilities. They found the breach point near the collapsed comms tower. A large tree had split down the middle, not from lightning or rot, but from something carving through it with surgical precision. The edges were cauterized, burned clean. Valen knelt beside it. High-frequency plasma? No, this is too clean. Almost molecular. Rourke turned slowly. It's sending a message. He didn't have time to interpret it. A scream ripped through the comms. Marcus, the squad sniper, stationed on an elevated ridge for overwatch. The sound was short, strangled, then silence. His biometric feed flatlined. "Move," Rourke ordered, already sprinting. They found the ridge empty. No body, no blood, just a sniper rifle, snapped in two, and a single deep gouge across the stone platform, like a claw or blade had struck the earth itself. Valen crouched beside the mark. "It's not just watching anymore. It's hunting," Rourke said, his voice low. She looked up at him, but only one at a time. Always alone, always isolated. He met her eyes. "It wants us to feel it, not just fear. Respect. It's asserting dominance." They returned to the camp, shaken. Every soldier felt it now, that creeping sense of inferiority, of being watched not as prey, but as lesser. The apex didn't need to attack en masse. It could dismantle them with psychological precision. Later, as night crept in again, Valen and Rourke reviewed the remaining drone footage, grainy and fractured. One clip, barely 6 seconds long, showed something moving upright between trees. Taller than any human, limbs jointed differently, but posture uncannily bipedal. It turned briefly toward the drone, and though no eyes were visible, Rourke swore it looked directly through the lens. He paused the feed. "Look at the posture," he said. Valen leaned in. "It's not just standing. It's mimicking us. Why would it do that?" He exhaled slowly. "Because it sees us as a rival species." The realization landed between them with the weight of inevitability. The apex wasn't killing out a need. It was gauging, testing, learning, preparing for something more. By morning, a decision had to be made. The soldiers were fraying. Morale was bleeding out. Rourke knew he had to strike back, not just to wound the creature, but to remind his people who they were. He gathered the remaining team at dawn. 12 soldiers, down from 24. Half of them bruised, limping, silent with trauma. Still, they stood straight when Rourke addressed them. "It's not a ghost," he said. "It's flesh and blood. And it's not a god. It can bleed." Silence followed, then a murmur of affirmation. A spark, small but real. Valen stepped beside him, voice clear. "We found a thermal trail. A lair, or something close to one. It's underground, about 4 clicks east. If we hit it now, we might catch it during a rest cycle." Rourke nodded. "This is not revenge. It's reclamation. Of our fear. Of our purpose." They moved out an hour later, fast and silent. The jungle seemed to shift around them, unwilling to give up its secret. But Valen's tracking was impeccable. Every crushed fern, every scorched root led them closer. The entrance to the lair was a narrow sinkhole beneath an overhang. The edges bore markings, not clawed, but carved, lines etched with near mathematical precision. Runes, maybe, or warnings. They descended slowly, lights flickering in the damp air. The passage led into a vast cavern, hollowed by unnatural means. The walls pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins, arteries of some ancient ecosystem or machine. In the center stood a spire, twisted, metallic, almost organic, like a nest, but not for eggs. Valen approached, scanning it. It's not alive, not in the biological sense, but it's interfacing with the planet, maybe even with the apex. Rourke stepped closer, heart pounding. The spire hummed faintly, and within its reflective surface he saw himself, not distorted, but altered, taller, stronger, leaner, as though perfected. Then the air shifted. No sound, no movement. And yet he felt it. It was behind them. Rourke turned slowly. The apex stood at the far end of the chamber, silent, towering. Its arms hung low, fingers ending in blade-like extensions. Its body shimmered, not from tech, but something innate, evolution at war with design. It did not lunge, did not roar. It knelt. For a moment, no one breathed. It wasn't submission. It was challenge, recognition. The creature saw Rourke, not as a threat, not as prey, but as something worthy. Valen whispered, "It's never done that before." Rourke's voice was steady, because it's never faced a human who refused to kneel. The apex rose from its kneel with the deliberation of a monarch granting an audience. Every movement was calculated, a ritual of strength not meant to intimidate, but to inform. It had revealed something essential, its capacity to choose restraint. In that moment, surrounded by the bioluminescent breath of the cave, Rourke understood that the creature's violence had always been a conversation, not a declaration, a test, and now it waited for a response. No one spoke. Valen took a single step forward, her hand near her weapon but not on it. Her voice was calm but taut. "Why now? Why kneel? What changed?" The apex tilted its head slightly, a gesture that would have seemed human, if not for the sheer alien precision behind it. Then it extended one arm, not to tack, but to point, toward the spire. Rourke followed its gaze and realized something was shifting within the structure. Thin strands of light slithered across the surface, forming a lattice of gliss that pulsed in tandem with the creature's chest. Not just a link, a heartbeat. The spire wasn't separate. It was part of the apex, or the apex was part of it. Valen tapped her comms. "We're recording all of this. Even if we don't make it out, Command needs to see." The signal cut abruptly. Every channel went dead. Static. Then a voice, fractured and layered, echoed to the chamber, not through the air, but inside their minds. Not speech, not language, a compression of thought and memory. Survive. Compete. Rise. Rourke staggered slightly, his vision flashing with images not his own. Worlds burning. Cities swallowed by forests, 1,000 species kneeling before titans like the one before them. He felt centuries of survival woven into a single commandment. The apex was a survivor of countless purges, a relic of some ancient galactic crucible. But it had not been the destroyer. It had been the victor. Valen clutched her temple, panting. "It's showing us everything. Its trials. Its war. This thing didn't evolve alone. It was bred, engineered to endure extinction after extinction." Rourke's jaw tightened. Not just endure, to earn its place. The apex turned away from them, walking toward the spire. As it neared, its body shimmered and split along glowing seams. Not injury, transformation. The outer shell folded back like armor, revealing sinew wrapped in strange tech. Circuitry etched into muscle. Not a creature, a fusion, a weaponized idea of life. It pressed its palm to the spire. The entire chamber shook. Outside, the jungle erupted in low-frequency tremors. Trees bowed, rivers rippled backwards. Across the planet, forgotten machines embedded in the earth awakened. Lights flickered on, signals burst skyward. Valen's eyes widened. It's not just a habitat. It's a testing ground, Darlith 9 was never about mining. The colony was bait. We were bait. Rourke's thoughts raced. A crucible, to see who would rise. The apex turned back to them. The image that had first terrified them, those claws, that terrible size, the unknowable biology, was no longer monstrous. It was earned. He stepped forward, rifle lowered. Not submission. Solidarity. "I understand now," Rourke said aloud. "You kneel because you recognize the will to fight, the will to refuse defeat." The apex remained still, as if considering his words. Then it lowered its head, not in surrender, but in mutual acknowledgement. A low hum filled the cave. A section of the wall peeled back, revealing a corridor lit with the same pulsing veins as the spire. Rourke knew what it meant. Passage. A right. He turned to his team. "We follow. This doesn't end here." Valen's voice shook. "Are you sure it's not leading us to our deaths?" "It could have killed us 100 times over. It didn't, because now it's choosing us." She swallowed hard, then nodded. The team moved down the corridor, the apex behind them like a silent sentinel. The air grew colder, but it was a different cold now, less of danger, more distance, of ancient things awakening. At the corridor's end stood a chamber unlike any before it, massive, circular. The walls displayed symbols in motion, swirling diagrams that dance around an enormous holographic sphere. Darlith 9, mapped in impossible detail. Beneath it, platforms extended into a central pit. On each platform, remnants of battles, alien blades, crushed helmets, fossilized bones, each a memory, a marker. Rourke stepped forward. The sphere pulsed as he neared. Then it changed. Earth, rendered in perfect orbit, wrapped in digital veins of vulnerability. The projection flickered through models, simulations of invasion, collapse, conquest, all of them ending the same way. Failure. Rourke's heart pounded. This isn't just about us. Valen stared at the sphere. "It's a warning." The apex moved beside them. A new voice echoed in their minds, more focused, almost singular. "Others come, not to test, to end." Suddenly it made sense. The apex was not Earth's enemy. It was its scout, sent forward by an unknown civilization, or perhaps long abandoned by one, to evaluate who would stand against the coming dark. Darlith 9 was merely a trial, and humanity had reached its final phase. Rourke looked up at the creature. "You've been waiting, watching, judging." The apex extended a hand, not in combat, but an offering, a question without words. "Will you rise?" Rourke took the hand, and in that instant, the chamber responded. Light surged. The sphere of Earth zoomed outward, revealing other worlds, coordinates locked, pathways drawn. A galaxy of threats, all converging. He turned to his team, his voice iron. "We're not survivors anymore. We're contenders." The apex didn't kneel again. It didn't have to. Neither did they. And as the chamber closed behind them, the war for Earth's future truly began.